Mel Brooks took one of the most serious Robin Hood movies ever made and turned it into a funny rap battle with characters wearing tights, and somehow made it the version that people still quote today. In 1993, Robin Hood Men in Tights came to theaters from 20th Century Fox, directed by the master of parody, Mel Brooks. The movie starred Cary Elwes as Robin Hood with a very proper accent. Richard Lewis played the always confused and stressed Prince John. Roger Rees played the very dramatic sheriff of Rottingham. Dave Chappelle played Achu, who dodges arrows. Allan Kramer played Little John, and Tracey Ullman played Latrine, because, as she says, it's a good change. The idea of the movie was simple. Take the very serious Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, make the drama even bigger, and then make fun of it on purpose. Today, we are going to count down 15 strange facts about Robin Hood Men in Tights. Stay until number 15 because the first joke in the movie was a direct joke about Kevin Costner, and it hit so hard that some countries had to change it. Before we start, make sure to press the like button and subscribe. It helps YouTube show this video to more retro movie fans like you. Okay, grab your bow and let's ride.
Number 1. Hulk Hogan said no to Sherwood Forest to do a babysitting job. There was a time in the early 90s when it was very possible that Little John could have walked into Sherwood Forest by tearing off his tunic and then flexing at the camera, because yes, Hulk Hogan was really being considered. The famous wrestling star himself said that he was offered the role of Little John in Robin Hood Men in Tights, but he refused it. Instead of wearing tights and doing parody, he chose to act in Mr. Nanny in 1993, a family comedy where he played a former wrestler who protects kids from bad people.
Because if you were Hulk Hogan in the early 90s, you have two choices. You can do a medieval satire, or you can do a direct-to-video babysitter comedy. Hogan chose the babysitter. The role later went to Allan Kramer, who brought something that Mel Brooks valued more than big muscles, which was timing. Kramer still had a strong physical presence, but he also understood the timing of parody. He could deliver a joke just as well as he could throw a real punch, and in a Mel Brooks movie, that matters more than those 24-inch pythons, brother.
Number 2. Cary Elwes hung up on Mel Brooks twice. There are normal career mistakes, and then there is hanging up on Mel Brooks. One day, when Cary Elwes was at home, the phone rang, and the voice on the other side said, "Hello, this is Mel Brooks." For a young actor who grew up loving The Producers, Blazing Saddles, and Young Frankenstein, hearing those words should have been a life-changing moment.
Sometimes I'm afraid of the lightning.
It's just an atmospheric discharge.
Instead, Elwes thought it was a friend doing a bad impression, kind of like I do. So he reacted the only way a doubtful British person in the early 90s would. Yeah, right. Somewhere in Hollywood, a legend had just been hung up on. Then Brooks quickly called again. He reportedly said something like, "Don't hang up, it really is me." That's when Elwes realized this was not a joke. This was not a prank. This was actually Mel Brooks personally offering him the main role in his next movie. Elwes said he was so embarrassed that he could hardly speak. At the same time, Brooks reportedly found the whole situation very funny, and that one click almost made Elwes lose the role of Robin Hood. And of course, Elwes actually being British became the movie's secret advantage. Destiny called. Elwes hung up. Then Destiny, who was Mel Brooks, called again.
Number 3. Sean Connery almost appeared in a wig and a dress. That very random Sean Connery cameo at the end of Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, where King Richard appears for about 8 minutes, blesses the wedding, and then leaves like he has tea waiting in Scotland. That almost happened again, but this time with a twist. After Connery's 1991 cameo became one of the most talked about parts of Prince of Thieves, he reportedly offered to play the role again in Robin Hood Men in Tights. Connery suggested the idea of playing King Richard, but in disguise as a woman. The actor who gave us James Bond, who faced Goldfinger without fear, was apparently ready to appear in tights and a wig for the sake of parody. But there was one condition. Connery asked for a salary of $1 million, which, to his credit, he planned to donate completely to charities in Scotland. Charity work, but in a James Bond style. The problem was that Men in Tights did not have a 007 level budget. Mel Brooks reportedly loved the idea, but he could not afford that amount. And according to screenwriter J.D. Shapiro, Brooks may have had another worry. Sean Connery in disguise might take all the attention away from the movie. So Brooks changed his plan. Patrick Stewart, known as Captain Jean-Luc Picard, took the role of King Richard and played it in a serious way. And here is the interesting part. When Connery did his original cameo in 1991, he reportedly accepted only $250,000 for 2 days of work and donated that money to a hospital in Scotland. Charity work, but in a James Bond style.
Number 4. The cast trained with the same person who worked on Die Hard. Now, Men in Tights was a comedy, but Mel Brooks had one rule. The more silly the joke was, the more real the action needed to look. Two people just swinging swords like soft toys was not going to work. So, before filming started, the cast went to training. They actually attended a weekend sword fighting training camp. Every Saturday and Sunday, the actors trained under experienced fencing coordinator Victor Paul, the same person who worked on action movies like Die Hard and Armageddon. He went from planning big action scenes for Bruce Willis to teaching actors in green tights. That shows real range in his work. The training was not easy either. It was proper sword fighting practice, because if the sword fighting looked real, the joke would be much funnier when someone suddenly got hit in the middle of a serious fight. Victor Paul later confirmed that Elwes was the easiest person in the cast to train because he already had experience. Thanks to The Princess Bride, he came in with strong fencing skills. While the rest of the cast was learning basic footwork and how to hold and use the sword, Paul only needed to teach Elwes the specific moves for the scenes. This is almost poetic because Elwes based his performance in The Princess Bride on Errol Flynn's 1938 Robin Hood. So when he later officially became Robin Hood, he was almost playing a more developed version of a character he had already studied. It was like the role had been coming back to him for 5 years.
Number 5. Cary Elwes had 3 arrows and no safety backup. The famous archery moment in Men in Tights, you know the scene where Robin splits the arrow like he is trying to prove he is a true legend, was not done with movie tricks. It was real pressure. During the training scene, Mel Brooks decided he did not want camera tricks, fake arrow breaks, or smart editing. He wanted a real bullseye, and he gave Cary Elwes only 3 chances. Now, Elwes was good with a sword, that was already clear, but archery was completely different, and it was not something he had practiced in any earlier movie. First shot, missed. Second shot was still not perfect. Third shot, hit the bullseye, right in the center.
And if you look closely at Elwes' face in the scene, he was truly surprised that he hit it. According to him, he almost forgot his next line because he could not believe the arrow actually hit the target. And that made the scene even better, because in that moment, it is not just Robin proving himself. It is Cary Elwes standing in tights, feeling the pressure, and making the one shot that mattered while everyone behind the camera was watching and holding their breath. Number 6. Tracey Ullman's unscripted "thank you" stole the scene. Some of the biggest laughs in Men in Tights came from big and detailed jokes, and some came from just 2 simple words. When the sheriff of Rottingham crashes through Latrine's bedroom ceiling in a wild catapult accident, the script already included the fall, the crash, and the physical comedy. But what it did not include was any kind of reaction, like gratitude. As the dust settled and Roger Rees as the sheriff landed in her room, Tracey Ullman looked up and said in a perfectly timed, completely calm way, "Thank you."
If you see fit to send me my one true love. Thank you!
Yes, that line. It was not written in the script. It was just natural comedy happening in the moment. A full-grown man had just fallen through her roof, and Latrine's first reaction was to thank the sky for it. She saw her ceiling break and acted like it was someone delivering a service to her room. Mel Brooks reportedly loved it right away. The line stayed in the final movie and became one of Latrine's most memorable moments. Number 7. Prince John's mole moved more than most of the cast. Prince John has a mole, but where it is depends on when you are looking. Throughout Men in Tights, the mole on Richard Lewis's face slowly changes position from scene to scene. In one moment, it is on his cheek, and in the next moment, it is somewhere completely different. If you blink, you might miss it. If you pay attention, you may start to doubt your own eyes. The joke is a direct parody of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where Alan Rickman, who played the Sheriff of Nottingham, had a mole that seemed to move between shots because of continuity mistakes. Mel Brooks saw that mistake and decided to turn it into a full joke. And he did not just use it a little, he made it bigger. At first, it is small and easy to miss, with slight changes here and there. Then, Prince John himself reaches a point where he asks, "I have a mole?" That is when the joke changes. It is no longer just for the audience. The character is now part of the joke. And near the end of the movie, Brooks takes it even further. The mole does not just move, it starts to grow. Even Richard Lewis later joked that the mole was his most reliable co-star, always there but never in the same place. It is one of the smartest running jokes in the whole movie, the kind that rewards people who watch it again and again and surprises anyone who is not paying close attention. That mole got more screen time than many of the actors and even better positioning in scenes.
Number 8. Mel Brooks wrote every song, and the studio wanted to remove them. If you've ever watched Men in Tights and wondered how a medieval parody suddenly turned into something like a Broadway musical, the answer's simple: Mel Brooks. Brooks directed the movie, co-wrote it, and personally wrote the lyrics for every original song in the film, including the famous Sherwood Forest rap and the title song Men in Tights, which somehow turned grown men in green leggings into a perfectly synchronized musical performance. Yo, 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 check it out.
Yo, 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 check it out. Prince John and the Sheriff, they was running the show.
Anyways, the melodies were composed by Hummy Man, but the lyrical chaos was all pure Brooks. And if you know anything about his career, the man does not believe in quiet or subtle entrances. If there is a joke that can be sung, it will be sung, and usually with jazz hands. The studio, as expected, panicked. The executives wanted the musical numbers removed, calling them too silly, which is a strange complaint to give Mel Brooks. That is like hiring a clown and then getting upset about balloon animals. Brooks refused completely. For him, the music was not extra material. It was the heart of the movie.
I said, hey.
Songs were how he delivered punchlines, and he had been doing it that way since The Producers, one of my personal favorites, back in 1967. By 1993, he was still an institution. You do not hire Mel Brooks and then act surprised when someone starts tap dancing. Thou shalt take a quick pause hence. Hey, if you are enjoying this deep dive into tights, moles, and medieval rap battles, hit that like button. It tells YouTube that you want more behind-the-scenes chaos from the movies you grew up quoting. And drop a comment with your favorite Men in Tights moment. I know you have one. All right, let's get back to the forest.
Number 9. Brooks had already tried this 18 years earlier on ABC. Robin Hood Men in Tights was not Mel Brooks's first time visiting Sherwood Forest. It was actually like a second version. About 18 years before Cary Elwes tightened his costume, Brooks had already done a version of the story in a 1975 ABC sitcom called When Things Were Rotten, a name that honestly explains itself. The show only lasted one season, and not all of the episodes even aired. But Brooks was not finished with bows, arrows, and tights. When Men in Tights started being developed in the early 1990s, it was basically a bigger and updated version of jokes he had already tested in the 1970s, and he even brought some of the old cast back again. Dick Van Patten, who played Friar Tuck in When Things Were Rotten, reportedly called Brooks and wanted to play the role again, but Brooks had changed the character into Rabbi Tuckman and decided to play it himself. Van Patten still appeared in the movie as the abbot, which created one of the more subtle meta jokes in the film. And that was not the only reused idea. The archery contest joke, where Robin's arrow turns around in the air and still hits the target, had already appeared in the earlier show. Brooks did not really steal it, he just reused it again. Even Robert Ridgely came back. He had played a one-eyed executioner in the TV series and returned in Men in Tights as Boris the Hangman, still wearing an eye patch, just on the other eye this time. Continuity was not really the priority when the joke worked better. So almost 20 years later, Brooks took those old ideas, improved them, added more budget, stronger jokes, and tried again. Same forest, just better tights.
Number 10. $500,000 in, and Brooks still was not going to direct. It is hard to imagine Robin Hood Men in Tights without Mel Brooks directing it, but for a short time, that was actually the plan. When the script first came to Brooks, he intended to only produce the film. He would guide everything from above while another director handled the daily work. Brooks was running Brooks Films, and he had multiple projects going at once, so in theory, handing it off made sense. But with Mel Brooks, delegation and slapstick do not really work together. As development continued, Brooks started rewriting the script himself. It slowly shifted more and more into his own style of humor, full of meta jokes, musical comedy, and moments that directly break the fourth wall and talk to the audience. Eventually, he realized something simple. If you are going to make a Mel Brooks comedy, you probably need Mel Brooks directing it. By taking the director role himself, he kept full creative control. He protected the slapstick style, improved the jokes, and stopped any nervous studio notes that suggested the parody needed to be more serious. He also secured Final Cut, which locked in the tone and stopped it from turning into a generic spoof. After a Writers Guild arbitration, he also received co-writing credit because so much of the script ended up being reshaped in his voice. In the end, he did not pass the responsibility to someone else. He took control of it himself and shaped the whole film so every joke felt like it had his personal touch.
Number 11. Richard Lewis had a 106-degree fever, and Mel Brooks still wanted his lines. After filming was nearly finished, Richard Lewis, who played the constantly complaining, mole-adjusting Prince John, was suddenly taken to the hospital with a 106-degree fever. That is not just drink some water and rest level. That is call everyone you know and apologize for things you did in 1978 level. He was diagnosed with hepatitis A and, in his own words, felt like he was dying. That is when Mel Brooks called. According to Lewis, while he was lying in a hospital bed, jaundiced and delirious, Brooks phoned him to talk about something very important, 2 remaining lines of dialogue. Because in Mel Brooks's world, even a near-death situation comes with a scheduling issue. Brooks reportedly suggested a plan where they would bring Lewis to set on a stretcher, prop him up against something solid just long enough to deliver the lines, and then take him straight back to the hospital. The total time needed would be around 20 minutes. Lewis, understandably, told Brooks, "Mel, I'm dying," and hung up. Brooks allegedly called back again and again. Lewis later said Brooks rang his hospital room around 15 times, turning the whole situation into an unplanned running joke. Luckily, Lewis recovered and returned when he was healthy enough to finish the film. The movie was completed, and Prince John lived to complain another day. The story was later included in the 2013 PBS documentary Mel Brooks Make a Noise, because even Brooks knew this one was legendary.
Number 12. They shot the parody in Errol Flynn's actual forest. For a movie called Men in Tights, Mel Brooks could have filmed anywhere, but instead he went straight to the source. Men in Tights was shot at Lake Sherwood in the Santa Monica Mountains, the same place used for the 1938 Technicolor film The Adventures of Robin Hood, starring Errol Flynn. Lake Sherwood even got its name because so many Robin Hood movies were filmed there in the 1920s and 1930s. Brooks was not filming in just any forest. He was filming in the Hollywood version of Sherwood Forest itself, and that is classic Mel Brooks irony. On one side, you have beautiful oak trees, rolling hills, and golden sunlight, the same scenery that once showed Errol Flynn as a perfect heroic figure in bright Technicolor.
To pass the word to every man who's been beaten or tortured. The Gallows Oaks in Sherwood tomorrow. They'll understand. Yes, Master. Off you go and good luck.
And then on the other side, you have a 90s parody with rap numbers, Reebok pumps, and a mole that refuses to stay in one place. Brooks did not choose that location by accident. He placed his parody directly on top of the legend itself, like the cinematic version of spray painting Men in Tights was here on a national monument, except somehow still respectful. Because underneath all the jokes, Brooks knew exactly what he was referencing. He was filming in the original forest, on the original ground, with an actor who had already spent years studying the original Robin Hood. And that is what made the comedy hit even harder.
Number 13. Critics gave it half a star, but fans gave it a lifetime. In 1993, critics watched Robin Hood Men in Tights and decided that Mel Brooks had either lost his mind or his creative spark, or maybe both. Gene Siskel gave it half a star. The Washington Post called it pointless and untimely, which is funny because parody has never really claimed to be timely in the first place. The reviews were very harsh, but here's the thing about Mel Brooks movies. They do not live in reviews. They live in living rooms.
Against a $20 million budget, Men in Tights made about $35.7 million in the United States and roughly $72 million worldwide. It was not a massive blockbuster or a franchise starter, but it was definitely profitable. 20th Century Fox was reportedly happy with that result. When you get that kind of return from a parody about wandering moles and rap songs, you count it as a success and move on. Then came VHS. That is where the real legacy began. Brooks has said in interviews that Men in Tights and Spaceballs are two of his best-selling films on home video, and that makes sense. This is exactly the kind of movie people re-watch at sleepovers. Critics saw a failure, but audiences saw a comfort movie. Over time, it became what most Mel Brooks comedies become, a cult classic that lasts far longer than any review written about it.
Number 14. An 11-year-old's movie complaint sparked the whole thing. Every great parody needs a starting point, and Men in Tights got its from a dentist's chair. After Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was released, the movie took itself so seriously that audiences were already laughing at it on their way out of theaters. One of those audience members was an 11-year-old boy named Geordie Chandler. According to the story, Geordie watched Prince of Thieves and felt it was too dramatic and too self-important. Now here is where it gets very Hollywood. Geordie's father, Evan Chandler, was a Beverly Hills dentist. One of his patients was screenwriter J. David Shapiro. So during a dental appointment, while someone literally had tools in their mouth, the idea was pitched. Dr. Chandler reportedly told Shapiro that his son thought Prince of Thieves needed a Mel Brooks-style parody. Shapiro liked the idea, and he and Chandler started developing a parody script together. That script was eventually sold to Mel Brooks for $500,000, and it all traces back to an 11-year-old's complaint about a movie. Brooks, of course, rewrote much of it, but the main idea stayed the same. This Robin Hood story was perfect for parody. Because of that original spark, both Evan Chandler and J. David Shapiro received story and writing credits in the final film. And whether the story has become a little more polished over time or not, it still feels like a very Hollywood kind of beginning. Number 15. One line and Kevin Costner's accent never recovered. Robin Hood Men in Tights does not waste time pretending to be subtle. Within the first few minutes, Cary Elwes looks straight at the audience and delivers one of the most quoted parody lines of the 90s. Unlike some Robin Hoods, I can speak with an English accent.
Unlike some other Robin Hoods, I can speak with an English accent.
And just like that, Mel Brooks fired the opening shot, because in 1991, Kevin Costner's performance in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves had become a big pop culture mystery. The character started with a slightly British accent, then dropped it halfway through, and ended the movie sounding like he had just walked in from a baseball field in Nebraska. Brooks knew audiences noticed this, so instead of ignoring it, he turned it directly into a joke inside the movie itself. That line became like a clear message for the whole film. And it gets even funnier. The joke worked so well in English that translators had trouble making it work in other countries. In France and Italy, they changed it to something like, "Unlike other Robin Hoods, I do not dance with the wolves," which is a reference to Costner's famous Oscar-winning film. In Hungary, they did not stay subtle at all and went with, "Unlike Kevin Costner, I have a shapely bottom," which might be one of the most direct translation choices in parody history. With just one accent joke at the start, the movie made its point clear. This is not polite comedy, this is full roasting. And that is it. 15 weird and wild facts about Robin Hood, Men in Tights. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with a friend who loves classic Mel Brooks comedy.